Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask that you take your seats.
Addressing
Thank you.
kids with disabilities and transition from school to that and she knows the
My name is Luana Scales, and I oversee the Advocacy Committee at Child Guidance Resource Centers. Lisa Roberts-Carteret, the President and CEO of Child Guidance Resource Centers, is under the weather and sends her regrets. On behalf of our entire organization, I want to warmly welcome you to Breaking the Bully Cycle, an informative and deeply meaningful prevention event. At Child Guidance, we believe that raising awareness about the challenges impacting children's mental health is not just important, it's essential. Tonight's program reflects our ongoing commitment to the well-being of the communities we serve and our shared responsibility to foster environments where every child feels safe, supported, and valued. Our hope is that you leave this evening inspired, empowered, and equipped with practical tools to help break and ultimately stop the cycle of bullying in schools, communities, and beyond. We extend our sincere gratitude to the Kelly Center for graciously hosting us this evening. It is also my pleasure to welcome our distinguished guests, Dr. Donna Wandry, retired professor of special education, Christina Carver, Director of Learning Assessment for Haverford Township, DeYong, one of our own talented clinicians at CGRC, Benjamin Hover, Legislative Representative and Director of Community Engagement for the Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, Maria Ceferatti, Music Director at Acting Without Boundaries, and the incredible Acting Without Boundaries students and participants who will be performing for us later this evening. We are also honored to welcome our keynote speaker and moderator, Dr. Claudio Cerullo. Dr. Claudio V. Cerullo is one of our nation's leading experts on anti-bullying, school violence, and mental health prevention. He is the founder of TeachAntiBullying.org and the Sneakers for Smiles initiative, for which he was named one of the top 25 most influential nonprofit leaders to Style magazine. Through this program, Dr. Cerullo was donated more than 1,500 pairs of sneakers to bullied children across the country, bringing comfort and confidence to those who need it most. Recently appointed to a federal task force co-sponsored by the U.S. Department of Education and the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Cerullo continues to shape national policy on school safety and mental health. As an adjunct professor of psychology and a sought-after consultant on school climate, culture, and inclusion, his impact reaches classrooms, communities, and policymakers alike. This year, his outstanding work was recognized by the Philadelphia 76ers, who honored him with the Heroes Among Us Award for his efforts in reducing bullying and suicide among teens in the Philadelphia region. Dr. Cerullo has also authored and advanced anti-bullying legislation in Delaware and New Jersey, and most recently drafted the first anti-bullying ordinance in the city of Camden, making it one of only 3 cities in the nation and the only diverse city to enact such groundbreaking legislation. The measure now awaits review at the state level. A prolific writer and speaker, Dr. Cerullo has published with the New York Times, Johns Hopkins University, and Harvard University, and is the author of the best-selling book, Inside the Mind of a Bully, From Victim to Advocate, which has sold over 10,000 copies worldwide. With more than 34 years of experience as an educator, school leader, and mental health professional, Dr. Cerullo has served on expert panels, including at the White House, to advise on school violence and anti-bullying strategies. His lifelong mission remains clear: to protect, educate, and empower children and families across the United States. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Claudio Cerullo.
We're going to assure ourselves of two things. One, that you can see me, and two, that you can hear me. It is certainly a distinct honor, and I mean that, and it wouldn't matter if you had 5 guests or 5,000 guests out tonight. You're here for a reason, and that reason is we are dealing with a very pervasive public health issue in this country. And all you have to do is turn on the TV to see the violence that is affecting our children, physically, socially, emotionally, and certainly online. It is a distinct honor to be asked to be the keynote speaker this evening by Child Guidance Resource Center and their valuable work throughout the tri-state area and certainly the Philadelphia region. I see so many people that I've not seen in 20 years, and I'm so delighted that they're here with us tonight. And certainly the warm welcome by Child Guidance and the honor of being able to present something that I've worked on in my life now for 33 years. And it's certainly not just an issue of bullying as a tagline. I've committed my work as an educator, as a teacher, as a school administrator, as a mental health professional, and certainly as an advocate. And we've done some great things in this country, but we are not done yet. We have an administration right now that we're working with, and we will change policy. We will add new laws to protect our children in our streets and in our schools, in communities and cities throughout our nation. I can promise you that. I began my career in higher education at Westchester University, and I am so proud to see one of my distinguished colleagues here tonight as a faculty member and former department chair, Dr. Donna Wandry. I just love her to death, and if you don't know her, please get to know her. She is one of the best special education experts in the country.
Your check's in the mail.
I understand that. She's wonderful, and I just have to say that.
Thank you.
I then left Westchester University and was asked by then Governor Ruth Ann Minner of Delaware if I would be her director for youth mentoring throughout the 21 districts in the state of Delaware. And it was a privilege. It was an honor to be a stakeholder, to be an outreach specialist, to develop policies and procedures to help reduce the dropout rate in 4 major cities in the state. And you have to ask yourself in 2009, why were kids dropping out? It wasn't so much the drugs, but it was the violence. This evolution that has changed since I emigrated here in 1976 as what we would call then an L student, an English language learner. And I want you to understand what these young people today that come from many, many countries to this great land of ours are facing today. And we remember the traditional bullying of being teased because you just didn't fit that block, or perhaps you weren't the smartest or the fastest or the strongest in your school or your classroom or on the playgrounds. But you were special because that's how you were made. And then we fast forward 37 years, and now I have 3 children of my own, aging 23 to 22. And I see the perils of destruction. The digital age of swatting, doxing, deep fakes. I mean, these taglines and pervasive cyber harassment issues did not exist. I was happy with the rotary phone, and I was happy with playing kick the can. I'm sure you were too. Nearly today, every 2 and 3 middle school students, please understand this is recent data from 2024, Center for Disease Control, Department of Justice, in the Department of Health and Human Services. 2 in every 3 middle school students are victimized in the school in this country. 1 in 3 high school students. The suicide rate among our teens, 13 and 19 right now, went from the 4th leading cause of suicide in 2001 to the 2nd leading cause. We're losing our children every 12 seconds to online harassment. This initiative was started way back when Barack Obama was president, and the baton kept on going. And task force and assemblies came together because one thing was for sure: we have to stop violence in our schools, our streets, our cities, and anywhere you may even preach. What is the cost of this today? You think about it and you say, well, are we monitoring our children and what they're doing online? At what impact to the social, the emotional, the physical, and the mental health of our children? Children with special needs, children with disabilities, children who just want to go to school to learn. I mean, isn't that what school is all about at any level, from pre-K to college and beyond? What's your responsibility? You're here for a reason. Not just to hear me. I'm one piece of a puzzle, and all of you are add-ons to that puzzle. If you truly care and are compassionate and are humanistic individuals, you have an inherent responsibility. You're not just mandated reporters. You're human beings, man. Look around you. Look at around who's in this room, and we all are made and created differently. But that's what diversity is, man. That's what inclusion is. That's what it's all about. That's what America is. And we must model this behavior for our children as role models, as adults, as grandparents, as parents, as caregivers. It is our inherent responsibility to do that and set structures in our school. It's about the learning. Yes, we know it's standardized. We understand it's about success and rigor. But it's about the climate. It's about the culture. It's about when they enter the threshold of a school and the bus, they are respected and they are valued and they are heard for who they are, not for the color of their skin or where they were born. We have to agree on that. And now there is a most powerful word that is very seldom used, and it's called empathy. And if you don't know what it means, learn it, look it up, because it is powerful. It is an operative word that certainly envelops people and says, walk a day in my shoes. I wish you had what I had. I wish you could see what I could see. Be happy. Be grateful for what you've been given, because in an instant it can be taken away. Ask my little niece Marina at 8:41 in 2012. She was a 4th grader at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Did I know that Adams Lanza would come and shoot his mother and pretend he was a mailman and get into Sandy Hook Elementary? And if you never visited Sandy Hook and Newtown, it is like Mayberry. And I remember texting my sister-in-law, and she says, I can't talk right now. We're in lockdown. And Marina is now a senior at Gettysburg College, and not once has she rode horseback or played the piano ever since she was in 4th grade. And Adam Lanza came in there and killed 20 innocent 1st graders and 6 building professionals, including the principal. And did it end in 2012? No. We've had 591 since Austin in 1966, and we're up to 593 to date. You're all come out tonight on a Wednesday evening in the great Havertown community, and it's a call to action. And I hope that when you leave here tonight, if you remember nothing else, remember that you're accountable to the children that you oversee, perhaps you care for, perhaps you once taught and inspired. Be present in their lives. Talk to them. Ask them how they're doing. You know the impact that you've had as an educator? I remember, and I'm just saying this now, and it's not even on my script, when Dr. Wandry, I remember the students would leave her classes and say, man, is she great. You know how many students she inspired to be special educators? That's what education's all about. People who remember you. 9th grade for me, U.S. History Honors. I got a C-, Lewis Holly. Why do I remember him and why did I become a history teacher? Because he inspired me. He said, you can do great things. Be relentless. Build a climate. Build a culture. It doesn't matter what your career path is. You still have the modality and the power and the ownership to mold a life of a sibling. Maybe you're an aunt. Maybe you're an uncle. I know there's grandparents in here. Make the change. Make the difference. Be that passionate individual no matter what your title, because the title is meaningless. What does it mean? The only title you need to know is how to find support, because kids are dying, not on drugs, not on crack cocaine, not on opioids. They're victimized online. Porn chat, revenge porn, doxing. These terms that never existed 30 years ago are surfacing. Every other day, law enforcement's called to higher education for a false threat. Kids just think it's funny until somebody gets hurt. Somebody gets shot. Someone's life is taken. Why? Because they're different? They have a disability? Or maybe because they're in law enforcement? No, we have a commitment. And this is my commitment. This is my challenge to you tonight. And it's urgent. Please, have your potential be extraordinary. Imagine a generation of students who view technology not as a weapon, but as a tool of inclusion, where everybody looks the same and everybody can aspire to be great. Imagine schools everywhere where children feel safe, both in their classrooms, on the playground, and certainly in the digital world. Imagine parents and law enforcement officials and social workers and mental health professionals and certainly our educators coming together, standing side by side, not pointing the finger saying it's your fault that you propped the door open and someone got in. Let's not point the finger. Let's come together. The vision is possible if we choose it. Bullying stops when we say it stops. Empower, stand up, stand tall. Don't get the phone out and record the next viral YouTube sensation. Cyber harassment ends when we say it ends. And we say enough tonight. And for the future of our children, we empower our students not only to succeed in the classroom, but to lead with kindness and courage. And my tagline is very simple. It's on everything I draft. Kindness. It's not that hard. I want to thank all of you this evening for taking the time out of your busy schedules and the value of bringing your expertise, your experiences as parents and grandparents, because everybody's valued. I want to thank our distinguished panel of guests, and I'm going to name them. My very special friend, I'm so happy to see you. You bring tears in my eyes, Dr. Donna Wandry, professional of special education. We worked together at Westchester, retired. Dr. Wandry. Autumn DeYong, clinician, and I thank you for the work you do at Child Guidance Resource Center, specializing in child and adolescent mental health. Benjamin Hover, sir, our County Counsel and Director of Community Engagement, Philadelphia Federation of Teachers. Thank you, sir, for what you do. Maria Ceferatti, wonderful music director, Acting Without Boundaries. Thank you. And last but not least, Christina Carver, our Director of Learning Assessment, Haverford Township. Thank you, ma'am, for what you do and what you bring to the table. Our distinguished panel. We're going to have a series of questions that are outlined here, and I'm the moderator for this evening. And our panel is going to help support some of these questions. And the first question I have for this distinguished panel is, how does racial, cultural, and sexual orientation differences contribute to students' experiences of isolation, discrimination, and exclusion? And what can educators do to foster a greater sense of belonging and equity in our schools? Oh, they have a microphone.
Whoever would like to go ahead.
I can speak about the, hello?
No,
No, yes, now, yes.
now it is.
I can speak a little bit about the cultural differences. My field is working with students who have disabilities, with acting with our boundaries, and I'm the mom of Simon Bonifant there, who is one of our actors who happens to be blind. So I think, starting early and including people who have differences, again, from the lens of disability, trying our best as teachers and educators to include people who have disabilities in the classroom, and modeling respect, modeling that we have high expectations for students with disabilities, not talking down to them, and hopefully in that environment students will also, model that same behavior and attitude to include people with disabilities. Questions?
I think this question might have been geared specifically to my experience when I hear it, because working in Philadelphia, I've taught for over 25 years. I started in Southwest Philadelphia at Catherine Elementary School, and the student body that I had there had probably about 10 different nationalities represented, students with multiple languages at the school. I actually started there when 9/11 occurred and witnessed some of my students getting things thrown at them out the window because they were Muslim as they were leaving the school. I then taught in Northeast Philadelphia, Baldy Middle School, which again, 1,500 students, and we had Model UN there. It was students from all over different Eastern European countries, Asian countries, African countries, South American countries, Central American countries, all over. And then I taught at Central High School, another similar school, 1,500 students, with students of all different ethnicities. And in terms of the classroom, the way that plays out is that as a teacher, you have to be culturally responsive with the students that you have. You have to have an understanding of, in many of the places, there might be deep resentments with students in the same classroom. When I was at Central, the Russian and Ukrainian war was going on. I had students both from Russia and Ukraine in the classroom. And to have that understanding of like what the history is in a particular place, how that plays out, that the students themselves might not necessarily dislike each other, but they certainly have family histories and families talking about the conflict from a different perspective. One of the best experiences I think that I witnessed was in 2023. I had seniors and 3 students in the class, one Jewish, one Muslim, and one Christian. We're all talking about differences in terms of like food, differences between halal and kosher, and like what that meant. With the Christian student joking with them both that like he didn't have to worry about that. So it's this very kind of culture that's set up in a classroom and in a school that really does value different religions, different ethnicities, different cultures, and sees each of the students as being unique, but also having a history behind them and a culture behind them that helps create the identity that they have.
So I just want to say that educators can play a really crucial role in creating an inclusive environment. And they can do this by having important conversations where students are included. And they can do this by having these students attend meetings and giving them a voice in these meetings, maybe giving them a spot in the agenda, giving these students an opportunity to really have a voice from different backgrounds, and giving them a voice to express concerns or bring their opinions, and just giving them the opportunity to bring up their own opinions of what's going on in their communities, because you can't always know what a student is feeling if they don't get to share their opinion. So that's really one of the great ways to bring that up.
Thank you. So, being in education, I think I'm entering into my, now we're all the way in, but 14th year in education, and I've worked across 5 different districts, and Havertown being one of the most recent ones. But one of the things I've learned, especially being in urban, suburban, I say suburban for some districts that are in between, is that you're going to have students who are the only. And by the very nature of being the only, you feel different and you feel isolated. And the first step to helping them belong is actually acknowledging the fact that they feel that they are different. But the next step after just acknowledging that for them is really, how do we celebrate that you're different, that you don't have to change that, and have others celebrate and acknowledge that difference for them. When you really think about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which I always like to give credit, Blackfoot Nation actually came up with it first. So they're the ones who should get the credit for it. But psychological safety is at the bottom of that, and to get to belonging at that midway level, you have to create that sense of psychological safety in the classroom. And that's helping students to be able to have their voice be heard or to speak out without having other students make fun of it or share a piece of themselves and others are acknowledging it and adding to it and building upon it. That creates that sense of belonging for a student where all parts of themselves are welcomed within the space, and teachers have to create that environment in all that they do.
I think that as you were talking about culture and thinking about culture in a different way, but I hope kind of tying in with what you were saying is, and I've worked on behalf of kids with disabilities, adults with disabilities, pretty much since I was 13 years old when I started volunteerism. So that was 20, 30 years ago. Yeah, no, but a long time. And one of the things that culturally that I've developed over time is this feeling and this perception that we don't get up out of bed every day saying, oh, that's a population that I'm not going to have anything to do with. I just think I'll hate them today. And trust me, I went to school with some mean girls, and that's kind of like, you know, how they thought, and you never knew if you were going to be the target. But you know, the feelings that underlie the peer-to-peer bullying that we see and devaluing that we see of others based on differences had to come from somewhere. And so I think we as people need to look at ourselves and as parents and as educators and anybody who touches a kid to say, am I checking my own behaviors? Am I telegraphing something that I'm maybe even not aware that I'm telegraphing, but these very absorbent little minds are sucking in, and I'm their authority figure, so maybe that is how I need to feel. So I think that there is when we're talking about cultural, we need to look at that culture that has developed, and you know, looking at kids and going, well, that's a bad kid, or we need to punish that kid, or whatever. Where did that come from to begin with? And how do we as educators, how do we as parents, how do we as community members make sure that we are telegraphing? And to be perfectly honest, in our political climate right now, there's a lot of bad stuff being telegraphed to our kids, and a lot of divisive ideologies. And it just scares me to think of the impact that we might be having on our kids right now that will play out in their classrooms, and like you were talking about, with kids of different ethnicities who were from warring nations, who were finding that warring going on in their environment. So when I did a little blurb up front, and the question comes down to me is, you know, information and communication. what do we need to learn as the adults in the room to be able to measure our own actions and our own reactions to others. And I'm going to be very honest. I remember after 9/11, and I'm not proud of it, but I flew about 3 weeks after 9/11, and I know I wasn't the only person in that gate who was looking around to see who else was getting on that plane. And I recognized that myself. I thought, oh my God, I'm engaging in racial profiling. Something I was raised to just not to know that was wrong, but I found myself sucked into that so easily, and I chastised myself for it. And so we have to constantly be evaluating ourselves, is what I'm saying, as teachers, as parents, as community members. What are we telegraphing to our kids? What is the culture that we are creating that our kids may then be replicating?
Thank you, everyone. Question number 2. In what ways do students from marginalized groups, such as those with disabilities and who identify as LGBTQ+, experience higher levels of bullying or exclusion? And what steps might your school or district take to foster a more inclusive and affirming environment for each student?
Should I jump into this
Yeah,
one?
sure, go
Okay.
ahead.
Again, I am a teacher in several schools, but our program, Acting Without Boundaries, was literally started by Christine Rouse, who's sitting right over there, because she felt ostracized, and I know you're going to talk about that, Christine, when we go up to perform, because of her disability. And the reason we have Acting Without Boundaries is to create a safe space for people who have disabilities, for children who have disabilities, to come in and say, oh, I'm not the one and the only. Everybody else is in a wheelchair or uses a walker or has a long white cane, and they love theater too. And I'm part of a group instead of the one and only. So finding those communities is really essential, and feeling a sense of self-worth is really important to lift people up who have disabilities. All of us up, regardless of our ability or disability. We need to find a collective communities to foster our sense of self-worth, so that when those moments come, when the bullies come and they're around, unfortunately, it won't diminish how we feel about ourselves. So that's one of our core values at Acting Without Boundaries, is to just make a really safe space where kids can come, and actors and adults can come and think about performing and think about acting and not their disabilities.
No,
Okay.
So one of the things I always like to remember in schools and in space, just by the nature of where we are as a society, people experience bullying, right? So we have to acknowledge that that happens. So for me, in schools, we don't want it to happen, but we're not in every space where we can control what happens with students, right? We wish we could be there to swoop in and say, we could stop this right now, but we can't. And so we have to, one, teach students how to stand up for others, because they need to be a voice for the voiceless in that moment. But we also have to teach our students at the same time that it's okay to recognize what it means to feel ostracized and bullied, and how to prepare to respond in those situations in a way that's safe for them and safe for others in that sense. Like, I always think back to Dr. Howard Stevenson at Penn wrote a book called Promoting Racial Literacy Within a School. And some of the things he teaches within that text applies across the board for all areas, whether you have a disability, you have a different gender, you have a different race, you speak a different language. But it's really helping students, because often you think you're the problem when you're in that situation, and so you don't feel affirmed and you don't know how to respond, and you end up turtling and not speaking and sharing because you're replaying the incident over and over and over again in your head. But helping our students to learn what it feels like in the body Does it feel like your chest is getting tight? Does it feel like you're clenching your fist? And in those moments when that's happening, what do you have prepared ahead of time to respond in the situation to affirm that I name it? This is happening to me. You are doing this to me. And then here's what I'm going to say to help you stop doing that. That helps students just immediately to get past it, because sometimes you don't have the words to say, and then you beat yourself up later because you're like, I should have stood up, I should have said something. But it's okay, we have to teach adults how to do the same thing. So those are some things to affirm them and help them along the way.
So I just want to also mention that, disabilities, some of them are easier to see than others, right? So, for example, someone that might need a walking aid or a personal aid in class, that might be easier to see than someone who has, a mental disability, mental health issues, that's easier to see, right? And they're affected differently. They have different needs that need to be met. And that also means that students might avoid them differently, right? So it could be someone might not want to join them after school because they don't understand their needs. It could be someone is uncomfortable because they don't want to be targeted themselves with associating with them. And that could be why they're experiencing more bullying, or they're not being, joined with as many times after school, and that's why they're experiencing higher rates. And the same thing with those who are in the LGBTQ plus community. They're very, open about who they are, and that's amazing. And that's awesome that we've come to a point in society where we are okay with who we are, and we are open in the self-expression that those people in that community have, right? But because of where we are also in society, there is a discomfort for some people because of where they are in their family, or maybe in their religion, or what they are normalized in their own community and what they grew up with at home. So, they might experience bullying or, further rates of, discrimination from their peers because of that. Right? So it's not always a personal choice or just someone's, disinterest of something. It could be deeper beliefs or someone's misunderstanding. And then also bringing it back to, what can schools really do for these people? What are opportunities for learning? What can educators do? What can they teach their students in the process, right? So they can teach them about visible and invisible disabilities, right? It's not always a student isn't interested in participating in class. What is their struggle? They're not the kid that is sleeping in class, or is, they don't want to participate and they're just sitting quietly back there. Maybe there's something else going on, right? Or what about providing terminology or identity basics and the importance of using correct pronouns to really make their peers in the LGBTQ plus community feel welcome in those spaces? In hosting inclusive events like silent discos or proms for homecoming events, right? And giving those opportunities where there's open spaces where people feel affirmed and they feel like they have spaces where they can go and they have communities that they can connect with, like your organization that you have, where they feel those spaces where they can just be themselves, and it's not that they're different, they're just participating in that activity. And I think that's really beautiful.
We seem to be going in a pattern here, but that's okay. I'm the type that likes to hear what everybody has to say and then say, what can I add to that? Can I fit in with anything with that? But yeah, I don't want to throw a bunch of statistics at you, but when we're talking about, and you were giving Claudio statistics earlier about the prevalence of bullying, and just keep in mind that kids with disabilities, kids with learning differences, kids with physical differences, kids with sensory differences are 2/3 more likely to be bullied than an able kid. And so when you look at those numbers, coming from my field, it gets very, very scary. It's also interesting, though, that and several Pacer Center, I don't know if you're familiar with Pacer Center at all. It's a parent education center in Minneapolis. It's fantastic. Pacer.org, look it up. It's wonderful if you have a kid with a disability. UNESCO, I mean, these are like really top drawer lit sources, and they say there's not enough research into bullying on kids with disabilities. That there's like 10 seminal studies that everybody rotates around. So I think that's something that obviously coming from the academic thing really bears more more investigation. Another thing, though, I think is interesting is that there's actually more, and this is going back to what you guys are saying about inclusive practices. There's actually more, there tends to be more bullying when you're talking about this population, talking about more bullying by exclusion than there is bullying by threat or physical action. And so that says something to me right there as well, that yes, again, the information, the whatever's being relayed to that, why are these kids being excluded? And then when you look at the age range, and most bullying, God bless them, takes place in those middle school years, those transitional years, what I call the yaya years, where, I've always found that age range so puzzling to me. I remember being an adolescent. I remember I was hell on wheels and I was a terror to my parents. I don't, do not say that proudly. But you have these kids who they are an age when they are the most insecure in their own development, but yet do the most to call attention to themselves. I've never understood that oxymoron. But part of dealing with their own feelings of insecurity and their own feelings of wanting to be seen, wanting to be heard, can sometimes manifest in going after what are perceived as weaker populations. So, and a lot of times that takes the form, it takes the form of ostracizing them. I'm going to try to say the noun. Ostracizing those kids, and the kids really being left not knowing why they're being ostracized. They just know that they go home and they feel like dirt because nobody has talked to them that day, nobody invited them to sit at lunch, those types of things. And so if you look at those age ranges and you look at the prevalence, again, going back to what you were saying, what can we help our kids do? Some of our kids, and I'm, again, admittedly coming from a special ed perspective, but, we have a lot of kids who have trouble with problem solving and have trouble with even verbalizing or cognitively preparing that game plan and then putting it into play. That doesn't mean that they are then victims. What that means is that self-awareness and self-determination is a very real thing that we need to be teaching all of our kids, and particularly the weakest populations, because we need to help them understand that sometimes, basically when you look at a bully, you can do one of three or four things. You can face off, or you can run away, or you can avoid. Not going to go near that person anymore. It's not a bad thing. Or you can tell somebody. And for a lot of our kids who have trouble with cognitively speaking their own voice, from an emotional standpoint, have a hard time speaking their own voice in an appropriate way, that we need to tell them that there is no shame in going to somebody. That going to somebody and say help is just as strong a tool in self-awareness and self-determination than in actually standing up for yourself. That advocating for yourself in and of itself shows strength, not weakness, because you're going to a trusted adult to say, this is happening to me and I'm sad or I'm scared or whatever. So those are just some thoughts I had based on what you were saying.
Everybody gave excellent answers, and I don't want to take away from their answers with my statement. I just want to be very clear, though, when we're talking about this, because we're talking about changes that have happened in our society, and to recognize that we're still living in the echoes of a normative society that was exclusionary for many of the students that we're talking about here, whether they had some type of physical, intellectual, mental disability, or if they were LGBTQIA. That just the normative nature of our society has made it so we're shifting in terms of what needs to happen on an institutional level. And I think that that's part of like working within the classroom and working within the schools that I have. one of the joys that I had at Central is I was the chair of the English department, and we were still working with a predominantly canon of literature that was all based off of a classical model of what literature should be. And so some of the changes that were made had to do with just incorporating more voices of more people in society. Like that has to do with LGBTQIA voices that are very much part of it. It's also the identification that some of those voices from the past were LGBTQIA, but were never acknowledged as such. And I think that's part of the discussion that had to take place. In terms of what happens in the classroom, one of the mantras that I had when I would talk with other teachers is something I actually got from my wife, because she works in the housing aspect of dealing with how to have accommodations in housing, is usually if you make accommodations that are dealing with somebody with some form of disability, it's beneficial for all people. So if you're doing something in the classroom and making an accommodation for a student, there's probably other students in the classroom who need it, who don't necessarily know that they need it. And so by just making those kind of accommodations, it opens it up for all. And if there is, just go to the second part of it, if there is serious bullying that's happening, I think institutions need to have clear policies.
Yes.
They have to have clear policies about what it is that you're going to do as an institution. That way you follow that policy. That you should clearly state what your goals are and what your expectations are for the behaviors of all the students in that particular institution. And if some people aren't complying with it, there needs to be a serious talk with those individuals who aren't complying, because everybody deserves to have respect in the space that they're in. And if some people don't want to give that respect, well, they need to conform to the fact that other people have the right to be there as well.
Good.
You know, again, I like to thank these distinguished panelists, because their answers and their interaction is just outstanding. And Donna, you're right, there's very little research. In fact, Johns Hopkins right now is really taking a stance on looking at bullying and children with disabilities, in particular those with invisible disabilities or hidden disabilities. If you have a chance, since this is really kind of a collaborative town hall, if you will, assembly of professionals, what we had done here in Delaware County with the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, the superintendent right now is a good dear friend of ours. He was the principal at Bonner Prend. His name is William Brannick. He's the superintendent of the Diocese of Philadelphia and a dear friend. And he came to us a few years ago and said, I'm really struggling, you know, blending my students together, and there's diversity, and there's all these issues of equity and inclusion, and I'm struggling, and my kids aren't getting along. And what I respect about William Brannick, not only as a principal, but as a superintendent in secondary schools, is he wasn't ashamed or embarrassed to say, I need some help. And we tell our children all the time, there's no weakness in asking for support and asking for help. I think it's always when you can't, or you think no one's there for you. But he came to us, and we started the first anti-bullying club. And now this club that, Christina, you're absolutely right, and I applaud you. You used an operative word. You said empower our kids, because we can't just play superhero. We want to, and my daughter reminds me all the time, Dad, you can't save every kid. And it's interesting, because I started my career at Eastside High in Patterson, New Jersey, and I never saw Lean on Me. I didn't know who Joe Clark was, and I was stabbed, and I said, I love urban education. I love everything about it, and I spent 15 of my 34 years in one of the most violent cities in America, in Camden, New Jersey. And when President Obama came to our school and said, you guys are doing great things in Camden, and a year ago, before I nearly lost my life, I said to myself, our kids came to me and said, we want to start this empowerment club, this anti-bullying club. And from there, we established legislation with Mayor Vic and Council President Fuentes. And now, in one of a 9 square mile city, just over the Ben Franklin Bridge, we have a policy, which Bridge is one of the most strongest policies in the country under then Chris Christie. It's called HIB, Harassment, Intimidation, and Bullying. It's the HIB Bill of Rights. And unfortunately, just to give you some context, Tyler Clemente was a homosexual student at Rutgers University who took his life after he was kind of just embarrassed publicly and online. And it's a tragedy in our world, online and physically. It always seems to take a tragedy, another gun violence, for someone to just freaking say, we need red flag laws, and we need to take a stance on no more lives being lost, which is just tragic and shameful within our political spectrum. And Donna, you're right. Kids are seeing a lot of humiliating and embarrassing things, and it doesn't add to this fire. It just doesn't. It takes away from it. And what our kids did by becoming ambassadors as an intervention and taking back their schools in Camden, and now they're trained. We train them in this research-based curriculum, and they become ambassadors to train other kids. It's like, you know, professional development, teach the trainer, and the kids are doing it, but they're empowered. Look it up. We did this story on NBC 10. I drafted this policy, and now Governor Murphy has this legislation, which if it goes statewide, it'll be the first of its kind in the state of New Jersey. And it all started with our kids. And that's where it is. Let the kids run it. They don't want to hear from the counselor, the principal, or Dr. C, or they want to talk about it among themselves, peer to peer. They can solve these problems. I mean, we tell our own kids, man, figure it out. But they lack coping skills, those mechanisms, those ability or inabilities to try to prioritize, because they're so busy trying to chat GPT or whatever it's called. I still write checks out, so I don't know a whole heck of a lot. I mean, I know the research because the kids help me with the research, but it's ridiculous, man. Just talk to me. Don't text me, don't email, come talk to me. How are you? I'm Dr. C, by the way. How are you?
Very good. Nice to meet
And you are?
Sharon.
Sharon, it's a pleasure to meet you. If you ever need anything, let me know. I'll be there to help you. How hard is that? Why can't we just, as human beings, humanistic people? I mean, why hate? But we have ignorance, unfortunately. And I don't mean that I was on a soapbox for a second. But
Could I just add something to that
Please.
really quickly? Thanks. I think that one of the things we know about dealing with, I don't even know, hang on.
there we go.
Yeah, well, thank you. And for my next number.
That's our thing.
There you go. That's your thing, that's right. Yeah, you don't want me to do a number. One of the things that we know is that one of the strongest deterrents to bullying, face-to-face bullying, is intervention by peers, standing up by peers. And so having that type of train the trainer type of thing does two things. Not only does it teach kids skills, but it also sends the message, I am here as your fellow student, as someone who will step up and stand up for you. And that peer pressure interaction of having that type of response to bullying is extremely powerful. And then there was something else I wanted to say that was amazingly brilliant, but it's gone out of my head. So I'll just let it go. But I just wanted to comment about the train the trainer type of thing, because I think that's an amazing model, and it does allow those kids to take ownership. And just real quickly, I want to agree with you, with whoever was talking about providing accommodations, that universal design. Yes, that's the whole theory behind universal design. And what it does is it just erases differences, and it catches kids who are having problems but are too ashamed to step up and say, I'm having problems. So I just wanted to thank you for saying that.
All right, the next question with some more buzzwords. What role does implicit bias play in disciplinary actions and academic expectations for students from marginalized backgrounds? And you can also think about microaggressions there as well, but that's the question number 3, please.
So that's one of the areas that I'm always like, I'm ready to talk about implicit bias. It actually drives me crazy. I'm starting to switch from microaggressions to macroaggressions, because at some point we have to acknowledge it's on purpose. So that's a part of bullying within itself. But we know that every single person has implicit bias, no matter what culture you're from or where you are.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be able to check that implicit bias.
Mm-hmm.
And we often find in schools that educators, when they're in a space where they are the dominant and there's no one else that's different than them in a teaching staff or in an administrative staff, they let the implicit biases just run because there's no one there to check that for them or to tell them when a student is being disciplined. Oh, did you realize this student, you had a conversation with them and told them, you know what, it's okay, I know it's a learning opportunity, and you send them back to class. But then you have another student where you view them more harshly and you treat it as though it's the end of the world and they're suspended and you're creating a school to prison pipeline immediately. And you're seeing that often with black and brown students, you're seeing it with students with disabilities, you're seeing it with the LGBTQ plus students as well, because we don't know how to deal with our own bias that's within us and how to address it. That's part of why, like, outside of doing the work I do in Haverford, I started a company for recruiting for teachers, because really, if we're not intentionally diversifying our workforce and we're not intentionally bringing in others who have a different view, and it goes beyond race. It goes linguistically, culturally, whether you're from an urban or suburban or a rural environment, you're not changing up the way we're doing our practices, and we just keep doing the same old things. And it impacts our students academically, because how do they see different students as being gifted? How do they see them in a different light in their abilities? Instead of just saying, oh, they have a disability. No, they have an ability. They bring something special to the space. And what can they contribute? Like Havertown has on, I believe it's like Wednesdays and Thursdays, we have our students from our 12 Plus program that come here and do coffee on the path. They're serving coffee. They're contributing to the community. They're showing that they have value within the space. But until you have someone who can see that about the students, that they can contribute more, then you have people with bias just sitting there and saying, okay, we're just going to teach them basic life skills and how to count coins. And that's not good enough. So you have to keep bringing in more diverse staff and teachers with diverse thinking to address the implicit bias to help check that, or everybody just keeps going on with the regular old show that's been happening all along.
So I want to comment on the academic expectations that people have, especially with these marginalized populations and people from disability populations as well. Educators may unconsciously think that these students are less capable or less motivated. Student walks into class again and they're, with their head down on their desk, where they have headphones on. Maybe they think they're not paying attention, or one day maybe they're checked out in class. They think it doesn't mean, again, that they're not going to still get an A on the test. It doesn't mean they're not paying attention. Maybe they learn differently. Maybe they have to doodle in their notebook in order to be able to pay attention in class. We all are different learners. We all have different styles. Again, some of us need fidget toys in order to be able to pay attention in class. We can't all sit still. Again, we all have different styles, and it doesn't mean that we're not paying attention. And again, it doesn't mean we're unable to handle a larger course load. It doesn't mean we're unable to handle a more complex class or a more complex solution or more complex problems. We're still just as capable. We might need a little bit extra time. Again, still needing an accommodation to need extra time on a test because of having, ADHD. Again, doesn't mean that we're not capable of taking an AP class. An accommodation is still able for us to take that class, and we're still granted that opportunity, and we should be able to have that opportunity. So just teachers need to keep that in mind and give those opportunities out and keep an open mind that those students have those capabilities, and at the end of the day, those opportunities should be taken in mind and be given to the students, regardless of what you think. Just be given and keep an open mind.
Some of what both of Autumn and Christina said resonate, and especially what Christina said about what gifted looks like. Working at the middle school that I did for probably about 12 years, I worked at the school. For about 7 of those years, I was with a partner teacher, and each year we were given, he was given 10, I was given 10 of the students who were most disciplined in 6th and 7th grade and the 8th grade. All of those students were black males and or Hispanic males, all of them. And on to a T, they were all exceptionally intelligent as well. And what was happening is that they were getting into confrontations with their teachers in 6th and 7th grade, primarily because, and not to throw my fellow educators under the bus, but in many cases they were provoking the students in the classroom and creating conflicts with them. And so it was one of those things where my partner teacher and I had a very deliberate program in place in which we would go on field trips twice a month. And each Friday we would have a special, if all homework was done, all classwork was done, we would do a movie and they could order out. And then we also would take on other projects in the school with planting trees, doing landscaping, doing all other kinds of work, to the point that like after about the 5th year, our class was the class that everybody wanted to get into. And it wasn't, where initially it had this stigma, it became the class that students want to be because they saw that there was this kind of joyous leadership. Several of those students I'm still in contact with. A couple of them are teachers now on their own right and have moved on to that next level. And it's just one of those points where what we see in the students is often what we get from the students. And where that implicit bias comes in, if we see a student who we see as having some kind of, and again, I like the word that you use when we talk about disabilities. Sometimes we talk about it as superpowers as well. There are students who have an unbelievable and uncanny way of solving problems that certainly I can't do and can't have. But if seen from a traditional sense in the classroom, that seemed like they needed some kind of extra support. And I think that's part of the looking at what we can do, what we are able to do, what our exceptionalities are, and also that recognition of how we can then bring that into the classroom. That each of us comes with transference issues from our past. Each of us comes with some kind of bias from what our past is. And I think that stepping into the classroom and recognizing that and learning from what the students bring to the table, and again, having an open mind and an open ear to what the students bring to the table is important to give them that voice in the classroom. And I think that term implicit bias is important to recognize we all have it, acknowledge it, and try to learn from it, and then to move forward and to also be the students in the classroom as well, along with the students that are there. That every year that I've taught, I've learned something new from the students that I've had, and it's just been an absolute fantastic experience to do so.
Something that we learned at Acting Without Boundaries over the 20 years that we've been going is that even though our actors have a lot of different types of disabilities, they come from Delaware, from Philly, from the Main Line, from Jersey, they're different ages. We go from, I think our youngest actor is about 5 years old and our oldest is in his 60s. We have, at least 30 performers. A commonality that they share is when they tell us stories of frustration that they have. I go to my doctor and my doctor's talking to my mom, my doctor's not talking to me. Or my teacher talks to my aide, they don't talk to me. People treat me like I'm a child, they infantilize me. I don't feel like I'm being taken seriously, or people are afraid to talk to me. With Simon, a lot of times when you were young, Simon, and we used to go to the mall, he'd have his cane, and it was like, Moses splitting the Red Sea. People would like yank their children out of the way. Look out, So that was sort of a universal theme. We decided a couple years ago to take all those stories to interview our actors, and we kind of narrowed it down to like the top 10 things that were common and annoying to them, and we created a video called Disable the Myths, because we felt like sort of like a bias. There were these myths about people with disabilities, like you can't talk to them, you're afraid to say the wrong thing, and we actually had our actors help us write the script, star in it, perform as themselves. And we use it when we do outreach. We go to different schools, we go to universities, we train to-be doctors, med students, second-year medical students at Temple University and Jefferson University, to tell them, here you're going to have patients who have disabilities. You're going to need to know these things before they walk into your office. And here's how to treat them. Here's the type of language to use. Here's the type of empathy to have. That word empathy is so powerful across all of these cultures. So we kind of, again, we empowered our actors to, in their own words and with their own voices, to be on film to create this, and it's really helped a lot when we do our presentations.
I've been busily taking notes here. Yeah, no, because as you were talking, there were just so many things that came to mind, and my mind was racing, and I had to, because a lot of what you were saying really boils down to, again, teacher behaviors, which I was talking earlier about the cultural, that culture, and when you say infantilizing, and really, when we talk about kids like they're not there in front of them, then how is that sending the message that they're part of what's going on? And it immediately puts them on a lower shelf in their own mind, because these people are talking about me, not to me, not with me. So that I just thought was such a powerful thing you said. But going back to what you were saying too about differences in learning and how kids bring different learning styles to any learning situation, that a large challenge for teachers is to be able to, again, check their own teaching behaviors, not just their own innate beliefs, but also their teaching behaviors, because we tend to teach the way we were taught, and we tend to discipline the way we were disciplined, and it's a whole different world now. It's a whole different game. Our kids are facing pressures and challenges like they've never had to before. So we really need to look at ourselves again. How do we construct our classroom? Do we spend our time, punishing kids for talking smack about another kid, or do we spend our time? We acknowledge it. When I taught secondary kids with emotional behavior disorders, and they would say that, they go, I'd call them on it, and they'd say, "Oh, I was just kidding." I go, "No, you weren't. No, you weren't. If you were just kidding, you wouldn't have said it." That ends right there, and to be able to, and Claudia's smiling because that's my personality, but and how not surprising I taught that population, but so just being able to catch kids being good, telling every kid that they're doing something well, and recognizing that pretty soon you're evening the playing field a little bit in your classroom, at least. Now there's other challenges going on outside your classroom, but that need to be addressed. But by catching kids being good, strengthening kids, with all kinds of fairness, is one start to be able to do that. Another thing is to be able to shape your own teaching behaviors, and so you don't call out kids who learn differently accidentally. Wait time is a huge thing. Teacher asks a question, and that amount of time that you wait, number of seconds you count until you call on somebody, means the world. Because you might have some kids who, while other kids are coming up, they got the answer right away. It's in their head. I mean, these are the kids who are waving their arms. They know what's going on. And you got other kids who are still processing the question. And the teacher does not respect that wait time. Or the teacher, instead of saying, I'm going to ask this question, I know this kid will need to process this to come up with the answer, but I know that kid knows the answer. So I'm going to look at the kids waving their arms, but I'm also going to give that kid time to gel that answer in his mind, and then I'm going to call on that kid. And that's a success for that kid, and that is the other kids seeing that kid being successful. So it's just things that are simple like that as a classroom teacher to equalize the population that you're working with in a good way, not to homogenize, not to overlook differences, but rather to say, how can I even the playing field so that it does not create a cesspool of, now we got reasons to pick on people type of thing. So I just wanted to mention that, and just again, going back to the teaching behaviors. Now with kids with disabilities, we have, how can I say this nicely? We have some more legal rights to fall back on as far as bullying, and because bullying can be interpreted as harassment, which falls straight then into what schools are supposed to have policies against. and what they're supposed to have mechanisms to be able to complain about. And we can talk about how with kids with disabilities that if in dealing with the bullying, we put the burden back on that kid, like I'm going to move him to a different classroom and keep the bully here, then there's a possibility that that next classroom is not where my kid with a disability is going to be getting the best interventions that are needed. So fortunately, we have some law to fall back on. We could say that's violating free appropriate public education. That's denying access for kids who are on 504 plans. This is, we have some stuff to fall back on. So being a teacher and being a school administrator, there needs to be transparency about what is the district's code of conduct and what procedures are there in case that's violated. And is anti-bullying part of that code of conduct that exists? What's the mechanism for issuing, doing a complaint, a formal complaint against a school as a parent that I feel is violating some of those very rights that my kid should be having because he is a kid who learns differently. So becoming an informed parent, becoming an informed teacher, becoming an informed administrator as to what are our policies, what are our expectations, what do we do, where do we head, what advice do we give if those are violated. This should not be parents coming after schools and teachers. This should be teachers self-policing in the first place, and parents are part of that self-policing. And never, ever, ever, ever do we just lay it completely on the kid. Taking into account what you were saying about having your own voice and standing up for yourself, yes. And if they're capable of doing that, great. They still might need supports in doing that, but never, ever do we just say, he'll work it out. We never lay the burden of dealing with bullying on the kid, bottom line. So if we don't lay it on the kid to deal with, then who's going to deal with it? The parents, the teacher, the school, the district, the state, if needed, as Claudio is doing in our neighboring state, to be able to have policies in place and complaint mechanisms in place so that if need be, they can be operationalized, but hoping that they never need to be because everybody's being transparent and on the same page about what the policies are and what the reactions are to be and what the teachers are being trained to do in their classrooms if they should experiencing bullying, what they can do to help start building those partnerships between kids so that there is that type of support, innate support that these kids are feeling. These are the systems-based things that we need to be looking at and say, are they in place? Do we have proper support? Do we have proper training? Do we have proper policies? Do we have proper implementation? Do we have proper mechanisms for complaints? All of those systems things, as well as what happens on the front lines, needs to be examined and many times altered, improved.
We're going to make this the last question. At this time, I'd like to thank all of you for your personal and professional experiences. You guys are just wonderful, wonderful people, and I thank you. I also want to thank all of you for taking your time out of your busy schedules on a Wednesday night. I'd like to introduce... Okay, so at this time, I'm going to introduce Christina.
Oh, Maria.
Maria,
Yes.
I'm sorry, Maria.
Yes.
And Acting Without
Yes.
Boundaries.
Oh, do we talk too long? Okay. Okay, great.
the other mic as well.
Yep.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Simon Bonifant. Thank you all for having us here, and what an incredible discussion. I've really enjoyed all the content that I've been hearing. In addition to being an actor with this wonderful group of Acting Without Boundaries, I also work as a disability advocate. I work as a cultural accessibility consultant with a few organizations, but the goal of what I do is to work with arts and cultural organizations to create customized programming for the blind and visually impaired, for museums, theaters, gardens, any kind of arts and cultural spaces throughout Philadelphia, New Jersey, and Delaware. And it really is getting back to that inclusive nature, because for many years, people with disabilities, particularly the people I work with, the blind and visually impaired population, were not included in cultural spaces because there wasn't programming that we could interact with in various ways, whether it be through tactile, verbal, descriptive work, things along those lines. And so I work with a lot of organizations to create customized programming so that the blindness and visually impaired community is fully welcomed and fully embraced and given the same opportunities to enjoy the arts and culture of our city and surrounding areas. I also work as a professional singer and a podcaster for the blindness community to amplify the work that's going on throughout the world in the blindness field. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Christina Carver, and I am the founder and executive director of Acting Without Boundaries. I was born with cerebral palsy, and all my life I went to a regular school. I graduated from St. Joseph's University. Go Hawks! With a BA in education. When I was in grade school, I loved it because 3 of my best friends are still my friends today. But when I went into high school, I felt isolated. The students and teachers did not understand what CP was. One example I remember is in the cafeteria. I was there alone as no one wanted to sit by me. CP can make it difficult to move your arms and legs. Can listen to me clean up your mess. When I was unable to, common findings still affect me. Isolation and bullying can lead to mental health issues that can last a lifetime. From my experience educating kids and teachers is so critical in our schools. When we teach kids about differences at a younger age, they are more receptive to learning about others wanting for them and those that's afraid of their disabilities.
All right, what we'd like to do is sing a few songs for you because we are a performing arts group, and that's what we do. And these are our two amazing performers. Do you need me to hold the mic for you, Simon? Yeah? Oh, okay. All right. We are, let me grab my background track here. We're going to start with a song from The Greatest Showman. Has anyone seen The Greatest Showman? This is me. Yes. Okay. So feel free to sing along. And clap along if you want to. Oh, this has to be plugged in. That would be helpful. I'll hold it with me and Simon because I think I'm going to sing along too. Is that okay? Oh, I don't think so. I think it just, yeah. Thank you though. Your way, yeah. I think so far. Okay. We're doing first? Oh, we're doing This Is Me. Okay.
I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, I'm gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me, look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me, oh, 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 oh.
I'm not the boys in my dream. But far away, 'cause today I will let them keep me here. We are marching to keep making moonshine. We are ready. Yes, that's what we become.
I won't let them break me down in dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. Won't let me down. I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me, look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me, oh, 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 oh. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me, oh, 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 oh.
one more. What do you think? Two more? Okay. Okay. So our most recent performance was this past September at the Haverford School. We performed. I'll let you announce it. Christine, what was our show?
Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yes. So we have Joseph here from he didn't bring his dream coat. He didn't bring his Technicolor dream coat. But he's here. Do you want to stand up and sing this one? Sure. Okay.
Okay, well, this is Any Dream Will Do from that show. And while, of course, it follows the plot of the show, I think it just really speaks to the hope and the dream that we can have, and what we talked about today, the dream of inclusion and equality and keeping that hope alive. And that is a testament to the work that you're doing here and all of you for coming out here tonight. So think about that as our backdrop, and here's Any Dream Will Do. I closed my eyes, drew back the curtain to see for certain what I thought I knew. Far, far away, someone was weeping, and the world was sleeping. Any dream will do. I wore my coat with golden lining, bright colors shining, wonderful and new. And in the east, the dawn was breaking, and the world was waking. Any dream will do. A crash of drums, a flash of light, my golden coat flew out of sight. The colors faded into darkness, I was left alone. May I return to the beginning. The light is dimming, and the dream is too. The world and I, we are still waiting, still hesitating. Any dream will do. Any dream will do. Thank you very much. And we have one more piece, which is a really nice finale and a way to close out our program that really sums up the work and the sentiments that were shared tonight. I'll turn it back over to you to share that.
Okay, all right. So this song was written by students and I at the Widener Memorial School in Philly, right near Central. Yeah, you know Widener. So it's a school in the District of Philadelphia for students who have disabilities. Christine started our fabulous outreach program called Acting Labs. So we go on site to schools, to communities, English House, McGee Rehab, where else are we? HMS School. And we bring acting programs to the schools and community centers on site. So Widener School is one of those programs, and the students and I last year wrote a song and made a music video. The song is called Hear My Voice. So we're going to sing it for you now. So the students helped me write the lyrics to this. Ready?
Promises
And when we fit together, we make a wonderful scene. Sometimes the scene is dark, but we can always see the light. When we work as a team, everything will be alright. Hear my voice, I have something to say. Listen deep, don't shy away. If we look close, we share the same highs and lows, love and loss, joy and pain. Oh, 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 oh. There is a connection when the light shines in our heart. Share a smile, take a hand, we're all a work of art. If life brings you struggle, don't give up, don't back down. Just stay on your hustle, rise up, adjust your crown. Hear my voice, I have something to say. Listen deep, don't shy away. If we look close, we share the same highs and lows, love and loss, joy and pain. Philadelphia, PA, the best around. What else can I say? We stick together with courage unite. No matter what happens, we try to do what's right. Some people may see us, their vision is cloudy. The only difference is instead of how we are equal inside, that's really what matters. Together we rise, like a family we gather. Support one another, yeah, it's the only choice. So come on, lean in and hear my voice. I have something to say. Listen deep, don't shy away. If we look close, we share the same highs and lows, love and loss, joy and pain. I am somebody, I am somebody, I am somebody, and so are you. I am somebody, I am somebody, I am somebody, and so are you. I am somebody, I am somebody, I am somebody, and so are you. Hear my voice.
Yes.
Whatever other programs is possibilities program will reach out to schools and we educate kids about disabilities and we give a performance. So if you ever need anything at our school, we can be happily come and help your students. But thank you, Danielle and Dr. Cerullo, for this opportunity.
Young man, you were absolutely outstanding. Outstanding. Can we give a round of applause to these wonderful, wonderful musicians? It's been an honor and a pleasure to be with you this evening. And again, I can't thank Child Guidance Resource Center for putting this on, and all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us as a collaborative partner. I'm going to end with a little experiment. Now, I just want to see how much you really did pay attention to me. Because I had a tagline at the end, and I had my dear friends at the Philadelphia Eagles. I told them I was coming here, and in particular, one gentleman who was last year's Super Bowl MVP, Jalen Hurts, signed an autographed hat for me. Now, before I ask how many diehard Eagles fans we have in here, I'm going to try a little experiment. Now, there's one thing that I said at the end. I have a tagline. You know what it is, my tagline? You know what it is? But no, that's not it. Do you know what it is?
Kindness is not that hard.
Are you an Eagles fan?
I am.
Now here's what I'm going to say, and I'm going to watch everyone real closely here. I'm one of the most passionate Dallas Cowboys fans. Wait a minute. See, he did it right. He's holding it all in there. See, he did it well. He's a great poker player. This young lady was going to jump out of her seat and say, "Are you kidding me? I am a product of my own mission in the Delaware Valley region. I've been a Cowboys fan since 1974, but Jalen, here they go. See, you learned nothing tonight. Nothing. I thought we could all get along. I guess there's still a hatred between the Cowboys and the Eagles and the NFC East. Again, thank you to all of you beautiful people. And we have one last commentary. This is for you, sir. Thank you so very much.
I have to say something really important. Child Guidance Resource Centers, I have known for a very, very long time. And I have to say how incredible those that I've worked with throughout the years. I knew this little boy who was receiving services from Child Guidance for over 10 years and is on the autism spectrum and was definitely afraid of any sensory, loud, fire alarm noises, as you can all imagine. And so it was really hard to go to school, and he was bullied because of it and had a really hard time being able to move forward. And Child Guidance and their team truly helped this young man, who is now 24 almost, and was deathly afraid of fire alarms, is now one of the top programmers, and that's my son David right behind you. So I want to thank Child Guidance for being a big part of my family's life, spending many days in their building, as well as their Family First program coming to our home. And their staff became part of our family, especially when they were in our home. So thank you for all of the differences that you made in our life and that you do in the lives of many children. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
And I want to extend a thank you to all of you who came out this evening, to our esteemed panelists, and to Dr. Cerullo for being not only our keynote speaker, but our moderator for the evening. And I hope you all join us once again when we have other events in the future. Thank you and good night.
Let's give a big round of applause to the